Joining me now to discuss the incoming Joe Biden presidency and the outgoing Trump presidency is one of the greatest political figures of the last 5 decades, and in my opinion, the greatest British political figure since Margaret Thatcher, the one and only Nigel Farage. Nigel, how are you, mates?
Very well, thank you, Rowan.
Great to see you. Now, Nigel, it's always, you were always a strong Trump supporter, indeed a very close friend of his, and you were over there for the election. Now, tell us, is Joe Biden really this return to normality, as the press here keep trying to persuade us, a kind of a voice of middle America?
Well, I'd like to remind the press that if it's a return to normality, that means a lot more bombing and a lot more wars. They seem to have forgotten completely that Biden, all the way through his time as vice president, supported an endless series of foreign wars at huge cost, both human and financial. And it's Donald Trump who came in, who's proven to be the global peacemaker. So perhaps it is a return to normality. Perhaps America will start launching wars against everybody.
Now, Nigel, you've warned that the second impeachment of Donald Trump could backfire spectacularly. In what way?
Well, I'm very worried about this. Look, there are tens of millions of Americans out there who feel that mainstream media does not represent their view at all, who feel that social media is now becoming, frankly, a censorship series of organizations that are stopping free speech. They feel that Washington, D.C. and the big globalist business agenda is harming their lives. And in Donald Trump, they had somebody who was their voice, who was their spokesman. If you remove Donald Trump from the scene, then somebody else will come along in Trump's place, and that could be somebody very, very dangerous. And I worry that actually what's going to happen here is those divisions in America will get greater than they are today.
Nigel, you famously, probably more than anyone else on the planet, are actually responsible for literally lobbing one almighty spanner into the globalist cogs. That spanner was called Brexit. Brexit, although imperfect, is now a reality. Congratulations, though, for making it happen. But with Joe Biden in the White House, isn't he the global fantasist? The dream is going to suddenly rev back into a gear, turbocharged globalism?
Yes, I suspect that it will be, or at least he will try to. But what he'll find is that his love affair with the European Union, which he's always had, he's always believed in it, he's always seen it as a prototype, if you like, for a new form of global government. I think he'll find that actually the European Union, apart from Brexit, has huge problems. You know, the Hungarians and Poles vetoing the budget, the Eurozone, which has crippled Greece and Italy and Portugal and many other countries. So he may have the outdated globalist vision and the great dream, but I'm not sure in reality he can do much to resurrect it. And I tell you what, for certain, he won't persuade the Brits to rejoin. That I can tell you.
So just tell us, what do you think Donald Trump's legacy will be? Do you think he's going to go down in flames as this character who was this ridiculous business at Capitol Hill? Give us your thoughts on that, but also your thoughts on Donald Trump's legacy.
Of course. I mean, the media, I've just had the BBC radio on before talking to you, and it's wall-to-wall people who were against him 4 years ago saying, what happened on the 6th of January at Capitol Hill proves our point. Actually, Trump's legacy, his biggest and most important legacy, is here was a political leader that ran for office, making a series of promises, and you know what? He actually kept them. How about that? How about that? Rather than just lying to people and saying, vote for me, I'll give you a land of milk and honey, Trump said what he'd do, and he did it. And I remember on the 29th of February last year being with him, having a private conversation. And that was before coronavirus had really hit. And I think without it, he'd have won by a complete and utter landslide. Life's like that. You know, you've got to be in the right place at the right time. But I think a president who did a huge amount for trust in politics by keeping his promises, a president who had the courage and guts to realize that the Chinese Communist Party are the greatest threat Western civilization has seen for 8 decades, a president who gave ordinary American families better living standards than they could have dreamt of back before the election in 2016, and a president who has brokered a series of peace deals in the Middle East that would have been unimaginable under any other administration. And that, I think, is a very strong legacy. The next stage of this, of course, will be the impeachment vote that will take place in a week or two inside the Senate. If the Republican Party decide to dump Donald Trump, just as the Conservative Party did with Margaret Thatcher all those years ago, then I think you'll see a fundamental split on the centre-right of American politics, and possibly the Democrats in power for many years to come. So don't underestimate just how important this impeachment vote's going to be.
Nigel, you know Donald Trump probably as well as anybody else. Do you think he would run again in 4 years, or do you think it'll be Mike Pompeo or someone like that?
All I can tell you is have a look back through people who've come in as American president and look at a photograph of them, and then look at them 4 or 8 years later. They all seem to age about 30 or 40 years. They all look half crippled at the end of it. Trump looks fitter and stronger and with more enthusiasm after 4 years in the White House than he did when he started. I am sure that he intends to run again in 2024. There are 74 million people out there that voted for him. The vast majority of those believe he is their guy. And if those on Capitol Hill in the Republican Party decide to get rid of him, they're making the biggest mistake of their political careers.
Nigel, there's a terrific meme that shows those presidents, Bill Clinton, George Bush and all the others, when they came into office and then when they left office. And there's one showing the before as Biden arrives in office, and the picture when he leaves office is Kamala Harris. So he turns into Kamala Harris halfway through over the next 4 years. What do you think of that?
Well, yeah, look, I mean, the fact is that this sort of new left-wing globalist force is now very powerful within the Democrats. So it isn't just that Joe Biden, frankly, is a bit of an old duffer and past it. It is that the Democrats are moving in a much more radical left position. And that's why all the Republicans have to do is to keep faith with the man who won them the election in 2016, who's built up phenomenal grassroots support across America. And if they do that, they'll win handsomely in 2024. I just don't know whether they will.